Hello everyone, my name is David and this is a video by DeMarco Gaming. I'm actually going to be showing you how to use the TileD plugin by Yami um, and Archia. And so, this is excuse me. This is a plugin that allows you to basically create a map using as many layers as you would like, kind of giving you the ability to create a map outside of the game and then bring it in. And as we kind of go through this, you'll figure out what the reason for doing a map outside of the game is. I know there's an editor inside, but there's some benefits to using the TileD setup versus the in-game editor. And so let's go ahead and get into it. So you're going to create a new project in your RPG Maker MV, and you just go to New Project or click on the little new icon, type in whatever you want for the game, and remember where your location is. Okay, so once you do all that, we're going to go ahead and go into your tile demo, or my tile demo, your whatever you named your project as, folder. And then you're going to click on, right click on the screen down here, and you're going to create a new folder, and you're going to name it Maps, all lowercase. And the reason for this is that the plugin actually looks for that maps folder and all the content within it to replace the current data maps that are in RPG Maker. So if you go to maps, you'll see in here I have map 1. You're going to name your map accordingly. So if you have map 01 here, you have map 1 here. You do not put the double zeros in, and this is all lowercase. So if it's map 100, you put in map 100. Okay, if it's map 1000, it's map 1000. So that's how you're going to name these, and that's how the plugins are going to recognize those. So now I'm going to show you the actual TileD editor. You can download this from the internet. It's TileD, okay? And you'll see here, I've already created my map. I'm going to kind of help you create your own, and we're going to reference mine here in a second. Okay, so you just go up here, you click this little page with the sun over it, and you'll see a whole bunch of different options. There's orthogonal, isometric. These are going to be more for Final Fantasy Tactics style things, but you're not going to be using that. For MV, it's going to be orthogonal and CSV. Okay. Your map size is going to be whatever your map size in the game is going to be. So if you wanted a 25 by 25, make your map here 25 by 25. Mine is 100 by 100. Now the tile size depends on what your tile sets are going to be. So your tile sets are defaulted at 24 pixels in MV's tile set. Now, if you're using larger tile sets that are 48 or whatever, you put the 48 by 48 in here so that when you bring in your tile sets, they match the squares in the actual editor itself. Okay, so go ahead and click that, and you bring up all these squares here. Okay, so you have your layers and your tile sets. We're going to start to import all your tile sets now. So you're going to go ahead and click on the sun down here by the tile set. It is really small icon. It looks just like the big one up here. And then here you're going to put in the tile set pixel size. So once again, earlier is 24. You're matching your tile sets 24. And then you go ahead and click on Browse. You don't have to rename it. It'll automatically rename it for you. And you can use anything that you want. So I used outside 2, and then I also used outside B. Okay. Now, you'll notice that you have one layer, you've got your tile sets open. So now what we're going to do is we're going to rename this layer so that you know what your layers are. It's a good habit to get into because once you get into 30, 40 layers, you're going to start to forget what tile layer 1 was. So I put it as ground, and you can put it as floor or base or whatever you want to call it. And then that's always going to be the very most bottom layer. And that's because that is the layer that your character is going to walk on. And everything else is either going to have collision, it's going to be the same layer as your ground, where it's going to basically the player's going to walk over it, or you're going to have the player be able to walk behind it. Okay, so we call it ground, and we're just going to go ahead and click this here and your little paint bucket, and bam, we've got ground. So then you go ahead and you go into your trees or your hole or your well or your doorway, whatever you want to build, okay? And you grab this. Okay, remember, you don't want to put it on ground because that's going to be your ground layer. So what you want to do is you want to go ahead and create a new tile layer. Okay, and then you're going to name it whatever you think is going to remind you of what layer this belongs to. So I'm going to call it tree. Now, if I was doing a forest map or something, I'd probably call it forest, and I'd put all the trees in there. Okay. And then, like, if you were doing flowers, you would put it under flowers. And if you were doing, a river, you'd put it under river. So that's how you kind of name those. So there's my tree layer. And I don't want to make a forest. I just want to kind of show you this. And then click on that. Click on that. Now, I want to show you something. If you don't click one by one, instead, what you're going to get is this. It does not recognize that you don't want the tree set behind it to overwrite the tree set in front of it. So as you're dragging it, the one behind it is writing over the front one. Okay, so you have to click one by one, or you can use a paint tool, or you can use like squares or whatever. If you were to come up here, there's like, I think, a square tool. And then probably paint it in. See, like that. Okay, so we're just going to get rid of that and that. And we don't need you anymore. Okay. Alright, so then what you do is you just go ahead and click on this right here, and you're going to fill out your tree and make it look like an actual tree and not some cut off forest looking thing. And so eventually what you'll do is you'll get this, where you get your single tree or your forest. Okay, and now there's a couple things that we want to do. You want to go to trees, and you're going to create a custom property under trees. This is so that the character can walk behind the tops of the trees. So you're going to go ahead and you're going to click this add, not add tile, let's try layer properties, and it's going to open your layer properties. Now I've already got mine open, so it just shows over here. You're going to click the plus to add a property, and then you're going to type in layer, all lowercase. Okay, for the value you're going to use upper, and that's also all lowercase, and that's it. That gives you that layer of going behind. Now remember, the stumps. You do not want people to walk behind the stumps. So there's basically kind of two ways that you can go about this. You can restrict it through a collision layer, or you can region ID it. Those are your two ways of doing it. Now, you'd have to actually implement a region ID map system where you still collide and that kind of thing. Takes a little bit of work. I'm going to show you how to do the collision, and then later on I'm going to show you how to do it with an additional add-in. Okay. So you do tileset 4 and you do collision instead of tileset 4. Now we're going to move that collision down just to above ground, because remember, we want our ground at the lowest layer, and then collisions is going to be something that a player won't walk through. So we want to make sure that that's below everything else, so that way if you do have walkthrough layers, your player will won't collide with walkthrough layers and stuff like that. So we're going to go ahead and once you've done collision, you're going to do the same thing. Right click on collision. You're going to go to layer properties and go to add, and you're going to type in collision, all lowercase, and hit OK. And then for here, you're going to type in true. Okay. That's going to give you that collision layer. Now, we come over here. This I kind of just threw in. You can use whatever one you want. If you have your own region layer, or you want to take the one in MV, kind of cut and paste it and all that kind of stuff, you can do that as well. I kind of just made a quick tile set, and this you could use for the collision itself. So you'd go ahead, you go into the collision, you just put this layer here. Now keep in mind that that if you use clear tileset like this, where I'm doing it, you're going to get a collision, but you're not going to see it in the editor because it's a transparent copy, so it's not going to be seen. You can use a colored layer, such as this is white. You can see it. The problem is, you'll see it in the game too. So you should use a transparent layer if you're going to use collision this way. Otherwise, what you're going to have to do is the second method, which is a little tricky and doesn't always look right. You're going to have to basically create a collision layer using the same tile set that you were using above. But when you do that with something like a shadow, it makes the shadow darker because basically you're putting a shadow layer into a shadow layer, which makes it black. So that's where, like I said, it gets kind of tricky. At that point, you can also kind of put your shadow layer here, but then you're blocking the player from going through that area that you wanted him to be able to pass through. So that I don't find is kind of a convenient way of doing it. So I would stick to the regions and just use this, or do the method I'm going to show you later. Okay, so now at this point, we're ready. We're going to go ahead and export this as map 1. And then I'm going to take you into the game. Now, there's a couple add-ons that I've got on that I'm going to be turning off because otherwise they'll error out the system. Okay, so you're going to make sure that YED tile map is implemented. Now, if you don't have this, if you're doing your own fresh program, then you'll have to download it into your JS folder, which is, go back here, in your root directory, you go into JS, plugins, and put it in here. Okay, in this demo, they're already included, so if you download this demo, you can come into this folder, and you can take whatever you want. Okay. So back into here, once that's implemented, apply, OK. It's going to ask you to save, and I'll expand this for you. Alright, so we come in here, and right now we put no collision at the bottom, so obviously you can walk through everything, including the tree bottoms. Okay, now we come up here, and as you see, we don't collide. Now the transparency layer that I had, keep in mind I had it there with lines so I could see which square was which. That's going to show in the game just like that white's going to show in the game, like I told you earlier. So you would have to make a transparency layer that has absolutely no nothing around it, just transparent. If you're just using transparency on a region ID, you don't need to necessarily use the region ID. You can just create a transparent square, and then you can use it for collision around the map that way. So you basically have one square, it's completely transparent, and then you won't have this line here. You just transparent around the tree. Okay, and so that is how you do collision in this game using the onboard system that that Yami and Archia created. Now, as far as the rest of this, we have we're going to go ahead and remove the collisions here, remove the layer. And the region here is going to, I'm going to go ahead and click that back on just so that we can add regions and stuff like that. So you're going to use the same region thing here that I was using. You can use your own region, as I said earlier, but you would not use a single tile region. It would be the 256 that are available in the game. Okay. And then, so I'm using tile layer 255 region code, and then I just go in and I select this and see, because I'm selected on ground, it overwrites that ground transparency. So you don't want that. Remember to select your region layer, and then you can go ahead and do this, and everything works. Okay, so your region, and then your region tiles. Okay, there's no additional custom properties that you have to add because this is all being taken care of inside the plugin that works with the tile plugin that you're going to be using. Okay, so once we've done that, I'm going to show you, if you do not turn this off, something happens in the game, which is basically you'll have collision, but you'll basically have whatever's in the square, the white or the little dots or hashes, and that is because it is actually showing what you're putting down. So if you do not want that, which you don't, so you can have colored tile sets this way. You just click off the region thing here, which won't let you add anything more into it because basically you turned it off. But it won't turn off what you've already added. So if you have it in red and green and purple and pink and whatever you want, you turn it off, it won't show in the game. If you keep it on, it will. Okay? You file, export, save it as map 1 again. Alright, so now we're going to go ahead, we're going to go in here. Okay? And remember those two plugins earlier that I turned off? You're either going to have to add them if you're in your own project, or you're going to have to turn them on if you're in the demo, or turn them off, if you have them on already and you're using the other system. So everything is now on. Okay, and this last one here is actually Yanfly's region restrictions. This is free for commercial use at this time. Always check their website for any changes to license agreements. Please do give credit to Yanfly for this. And this allows you to select which region you want to block players, block events, or block all, allow players, allow events, or allow all. So you can actually turn around and say, maybe you want the player not to be able to walk through the forest, but you want an enemy to jump out. If that's the case, then you're gonna go ahead and you're gonna have this this ID as whatever you want for the player, and you'd use that tile set in the TileD. And then for the event, you wouldn't put that in because you don't want him to restrict it. So then he'd be able to move through the forest, but the player would not. Okay, so that's how that works, and now we're going to go ahead and go into the game. And you're going to notice that I can now collide with the tree without having any kind of hashtags or dots or whatever. So that looks good. Now you go into the forest, I can still pass behind the forest. Okay. The tree markers are going to be a little bit touch and go. So right now I've got that perfectly aligned with the bottom. But when you start to go into the forest, keep in mind that players, if they're not blocked, will be able to walk through those tree bottoms. So you'll see right there the players walking right through tree bottoms. Now, inside the forest, players are more likely to give you a leeway on that. They're not going to say much about it. But in the case of, walking kind of out, trying to walk into it and you just disappear behind a tree bottom, they might, kind of laugh and scoff at that. So just make sure that you put collision where you want collision, leave collision out where you don't, and you can use this for player or event or whatever you want to use it for. Now there's a couple other things that the program says on the website that it works for. I wasn't able to actually get these implemented. I tried to get the parallax and it would crash on me, so I couldn't get that to work. And the arrow impassable, I had all the custom property in like it said to do, and no matter what I did, it would not actually allow me to do that. So I couldn't get it to work properly, and therefore I did not include it in this demo. If anybody's able to get that to work, they're more than welcome to correct the demo and put it back up for everybody. The purpose of this demo is to kind of get the information out there so that everybody can use this, and it's kind of a starting base for everybody to figure out how to work it and move on with their project. So please always remember to give the creators credit for everything they do. They spend a lot of time working on this. They're not asking for money. They're allowing you to use it commercially. So make sure you put your credits in your games. And if you like this video, please remember to hit the thumbs up button. And any comments, leave it below for me. I appreciate it. And thank you for your time and watching.